So while we're setting up, like branch we're having as well. Maybe let's study about it. Angela and Greg had told you high level what we do. I'll tell you how it started. Several years ago, I was running another payments company in Cincinnati, and I found that some of my employees, particularly those who were like in the call center, were running into bad products like overdrafting and payday loans. And that didn't make any sense to me because I thought it was doing pretty well. And when I spoke with them, the problem was that they needed money the next day, not the next Friday. And I couldn't get our payroll system to actually pay them for the work that they'd already done. If they quit that day, they would get paid. If they didn't quit, they'd have to wait until payday. And so to me, that was kind of stupid. So I wrote them a check out of my own account for the work that they'd already done, and then they paid me back on payday. And I think this is something that happens in like millions of small businesses. And so this went on for several years, and we ended up starting part of the company and moved over here to the Bay Area. I had all of my employees on this messenger. And so they wanted to know if I was still doing it. And I didn't mind doing it, but now I needed to know if they were working or not. And so I asked them to give me the username and password to the time and attendance system. So they would message me that they wanted some money, I would log in as them, see if they'd worked. If they'd worked, I'd push money out of my bank account to theirs, and on payday, I'd pull it back. And so this went on for a little bit, and I found that if I go out and I come back, I get this really long list of recent messages. I have like deep to figure out how much money they wanted, and it's just not going to work. So I built a simple web form and said, if you need money, go fill out that form, and I'll do it instead of getting an essay every time. And once I had a web page, there were people who I didn't know were trying to use that page. And so I thought it was interesting to do it for people who I didn't know as well. And so I started doing it for them if I could get access to their employer's time and attendance system. And so that's how it started, and I realized that what I was doing was very similar to what the payroll system does. I was looking at how much they had worked, converting that into a dollar amount and pushing it out. But instead of doing it in a batch of the entire company, I was doing more like an API for each person. And when I did that, they were paying all their bills on time. There was no more overdraft fees, no more payday loans. Life was much more simpler. And so that's when I realized I had to make it into a company so that it could have a much larger impact. So that's how it started. I'm going to need your password. You want to tell me loudly? So we started off first with people I knew, and then for a few people who found that page. And today we do it for employees from over 50,000 companies. This is what our growth curve looks like. We track over 5 million hours a week of work across our user base. So we have lots of interesting processes around managing the growth, including some weekly meetings on what do we expect to break this week. But one of the ways to think about like what do you do to get this kind of growth is you want to go after a really big market and have a great product. And this is a huge market. There's just so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck. I think quite often we don't actually realize that there are people who we run into almost every day who are in this category. It could be an admin, could be a school teacher, could be someone working like TSA. It's like there's so many people who we run into every day who are in this market. And the fees that we pay in overdraft late fees, that's $100 billion a year. And it's interesting, just on overdraft fees, 1 out of 8 streaming subscribers for these services actually pays like a $35 overdraft fee. And these are all just super small transactions. Another interesting stat, probably thinking of like Angela's stat of the entire credit card volume is $1 trillion. If you just look at how much of your paycheck is held up, only for the bi-weekly pay cycle, that's $1 trillion as well. So that's like as big as the entire credit card category. So we're only in the US, but we have employees from over 50,000 companies using the product. So we launched in 2014. The product is only available on an app, so the website is more for you to get to know about the product, but not to actually use it. 100% mobile. When you cash out, as soon as you hit cash out in the app, the money's in your bank account the same second. And so we get a lot of usage at point of sale. So we'll have someone who's at like Subway, they need $7 to take out $7. 2 hours later, they're Walgreens and need another $20 to take out $20. So it's this really frequent usage. And then we've got 24/7 customer support. I think the other piece that keeps surprising is how big our customer support team is, but it's at over 250 people right now. We've raised $65 million from Andreessen Horowitz and a number of other firms. This gives you an overview of what the app looks like. So I'm going to go through some of the screens that you saw because I went pretty quick. But I think some of the things that are really interesting is we're able to keep track of how much someone is earning pretty much in real time. So as people work, we can keep track of how much they're earning. And we do this without having to integrate with the employer. So we're able to use data from your phone and a number of other data sources like Places APIs, some motion data, and we've a decent amount of machine learning algorithms that can tell us when someone is working and when they stop working, how much they've earned in that time. And so one of the interesting things with that is because we can now tell for any employee, and this is for hourly or salaried, how much they're earning, the product doesn't need to be sold through employers. So it doesn't need to be pushed through a sales force. It can actually be pulled by the employees by just downloading off the App Store. Then you can send money to the bank. We cap it out at $100 per day and up to $500 per pay period. And then we don't have any fees or interest. We just ask our users to pay us whatever they think is fair. And so that's what you saw on the side. And there's really interesting behavior around that. We find that users will often try to help each other out. So there's a really strong paid-forward culture in the community. And if I paid more than what it costs for my transaction, in the app you'll see that the app will tell me that I'm paying for somebody else. And the next person who comes in the app will see a message that says, Ram already covered the cost of your transaction. And they'll send me a thank you message. And so every day there's tens of thousands of thank you messages that go between our users. And then we have a number of superpowers. I'll go through these really quick, but lightning speed is where you get the money the same second. Balance Shield. So this is an interesting feature where if you turn it on, we'll watch your bank account. When your bank account goes low, we'll push money into your bank account out of your earnings so that you don't get an overdraft fee. Pay Booster, this is a partnership with Sears and Kmart where for every $100 that you cash out with Earnin, you get $1 of shopping credit at Kmart, Sears, Lands, and a few other stores. And the financial calendar, so this looks like a regular calendar, but on that you'll see the next 4 weeks, you'll see when your paydays are, and then you'll see what bills are coming up in those 4 weeks. And so you can see which bills are due before payday and which bills are due after payday. And so we get really powerful user stories. And so this is about one of our users. She dropped her insulin, thought she was going to get 2 overdraft fees, one to see the doctor and one to fill out the prescription. But while she was waiting, she used the app and she saved $70 by avoiding those 2 overdraft fees. It's also great, just makes people be better employees. There's less unplanned absenteeism. People pay their bills on time. They're not worrying so much about money at work. They're more motivated to go into work. And we've seen with a lot of on-demand companies that when their drivers or shoppers start using our app, the earnings actually go up. And so if you look at the pre and the post, you see a bump in earnings because they know that they can get the money and they know when they need to work because we show them through the financial calendar when they have bills and they can see what their bank balance is. If they don't have enough money, then they start driving more. So here's a couple of stats for all of you who are product people, I think that are quite interesting. So our app is opened over 25 times a month on average. And so this is just super high engagement for an app like this, but it's mainly because we tell you every day how much you're earning. And if you have a bank account and you're in this segment, you really will open your bank account only on 2 days, the day that you get paid, because every other day it looks terrible. Another thing I think that's also interesting is when banks moved out of paper statements to like an online portal, people stopped looking at the online statements, at the paper statements, because they were always out of date. And with the earnings account, all the money that's going to be in your checking account is in the earnings account 2 weeks earlier. So now your checking account is a delayed version of what you actually see in our app. And then we have a really high net promoter score. This is something that we track really closely. And we actually, we know we're going to get our net promoter score quite a bit above 80 because we do a whole bunch of NPS A/B tests around what do we do to improve the NPS. And we have a reason to do it as well. And I think our reason is probably more compelling than most of the companies, because we don't ask our users, we don't require our users to pay us. So they have to like us in order for them to pay us. And so our margin is very closely correlated with our net promoter score. And so this is a question that might be good for everyone to ask themselves about their product and how they feel about it. So here's just some other interesting stats. Is like banks are spending a lot of money on technology, but almost no one is going after the next 3 billion. And there's lots of challenges in this space, like Angela mentioned. Oh, well, maybe we're not that subtle about our recruiting pitch. But it's a great place to work. People are we have a really sharp team, very kind people. I think you'll find that the culture actually is reflected in how the product was designed. And then we also make products that I would argue are very bold compared to what many people are used to. And we're always looking for people and ideas that are innovative and will change the way people think about how they manage their money. Any questions?
I love the product, Earnin. One quick question though, you mentioned you have 250 customer support people. I think a lot of that is because you guys are focused on the consumer. I guess why did you choose to focus on the consumer if you could have maybe focused on the business? Is it more, what is the real strategy behind that, I guess?
So I don't know if it's so much a business-driven growth strategy as I think more like a life philosophy. I think that lots of the products that we have today take advantage of people, and that causes lots of divisions in society. And so we're trying to build products that actually help people, and try to bring people together. And you see that in the way we build the paper, we do messaging and things like that. We're actually really clear that the individual is our customer, not the company. We've had companies come to us and ask us and offer deals where they will promote us in exchange for getting data about when other employees really working. And we've said we won't do those deals. And so we're very clear that we actually work with people, not the companies.
Yeah, congratulations, you built an amazing company, an amazing platform. I really love the social mission behind this. It sort of lends itself for a lot of other sort of opportunities in different verticals. What's your vision for this company in the future? What other sort of segments do you think you could potentially get into?
So we do have a very interesting data set. We have information about people's work. We know where they work. We know how well they work. We know what their attendance is like. We know if they're on time or not. So we've got an interesting data set around work. We've got an interesting set around spend because we see all their bank transaction data. We know what their share of volume is in different locations. We know a lot about their financial situation. We know what their debt-to-income ratio is, what their savings is, what their average balance is. And we also have a lot of very contextual information. We know what someone's commute is. We know where they spend their time that's not work time. So we have a lot of contextual information. So I think that gives us a very wide vector for innovation. And so we have lots of ideas, but I'd rather build those out first before I talk about them. Sure.
I was wondering too, you mentioned one of the superpowers is sending the money instantly.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that on payday you automatically pull back. I was just wondering if you could share more about kind of the evolution of how you were able to achieve that on both sides, in terms of just like how you made that
How does
possible.
that happen? Okay. So the mechanics are these are all debit transactions. Debit rails are instant. Instead of us using it to take money out of an account, we're basically issuing refunds. And so we're constantly issuing refunds on debit rails. And so that then posts to the account immediately. And so that's how we push it out. When we pull it out, you can actually time it so you can send it out earlier, so then our mix is far more skewed to being ACH.
What's the typical amount that your end users pay or choose to pick to pay you?
So it would be less than what they would pay for any other comparable product. And so the key to making this work from a financial point of view is actually spending a lot of time on your cost side. Because we'll make a fraction of what anybody else will make, and so we're super focused on getting our costs low. And we've got it to the point now where when we spend money on acquisition, we know what the payback periods are. So it's got to where it's sufficient to cover our costs and be a little bit more. But we don't show the actual amount.
What's the average tip size? Like, what do people actually choose to? Oh, sorry.
That's the same question we ordered.
What's the? Do you have partnerships with employers to make revenue on that side as well?
We have partnerships with employers, and we do not make any revenue off those. We're really clear that we will not take money from the employer because that will put us into a conflict situation down the road. So we will partner with employers and they can tell their employees about us, but we will not take money from the employer.
So, a similar vein, maybe more direct, how do you prevent everybody from paying zero?
People are generally good.
Okay.
I mean, it's like how often have you paid zero with a restaurant? I mean, how many of you have always paid zero with a restaurant too? So I think I get this question a lot, and I've described this so many times. But I think one of the key things that is super interesting to me is I describe this to different people. And when I describe it to someone who's very wealthy, they're like, why would anyone pay? You don't have to pay, why would you pay? And I talk about this to a barista or an Uber driver, they're like, of course I pay for this, this would help me so much. And so then you realize that money is different things to different people. To someone who's very rich, money is a way to keep score. You try to figure out what the rules are and you keep, that's how you keep score of how you're doing. To someone who's in our category, it's how you get by from week to week and day to day. Money is completely different things to different people. Am I getting more questions than usual?
Where do your users run into the most friction in the onboarding process? So where do you actually see the most drop-off as consumers are coming on board?
So one of the steps is we need to actually be able to see bank transaction data. And that helps us figure out what your frequency of pay is, as well as how much you're paid. And that step is a pretty large drop-off. The irony is not lost that one sitting next to you is wearing a plaid shirt.
And Dave, just one more.
How do you think about the potential threat of large financial institutions integrating this functionality into their own mobile app?
What's the question?
What do I think of large financial institutions trying to do what we're doing? So I think the first thing is if you look at the NPS curve that I had, you know what the bank's NPS is, it's minus 15, minus 23. They'll lose money on this model just off the bat because their customers have enough to pay them voluntarily. So that part they can't copy. So the next part is can they do something that's lower cost? That's kind of what they should be doing anyway. I think banks' mentalities have, overdraft should have never been $35. And I think it's very hard for a bank to unwind the $35 overdraft fee. If you look at lots of banks that don't have multiple lines of business, take banks that don't have mortgages and all the other businesses, almost the entire profit is coming out of overdraft fees. So they can't actually afford to unwind it.